Hello, and welcome to Bella Vista Community Television. We're starting a new series of interesting programs, and our focus today is going to be on the Bella Vista Foundation. I'm your host, Jeff Warchow, and our guest today is Tom Pyatt, the current president of the Bella Vista Foundation. Tom, welcome, and thank you for coming over today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Many of our viewers may not be aware of the history and how the foundation got started and why it got started. So maybe you could give us a little background information on that.
I'd be glad to do that, Jeff. I brought with me a slideshow today that I'd like to just show the folks briefly, and then you can ask me some questions and we can get into some more of the detail.
Sounds good.
So if that's okay, without further ado, could you please put on the slideshow? Okay, I'm here today to introduce the Bella Vista Foundation, serving the community, our local community of Bella Vista, Arkansas. Our foundation, its primary purpose is to provide support, financial and otherwise, to enhance the Bella Vista community, including and not limited to its amenities, our facilities, our recreational activities, community events, and programs. Our foundation is young in terms of being founded only in 2012, which is pretty recent, by community leaders. There were 5 of us to help members of the community and others marshal our resources and make a difference in our community and the causes that they care about. We partner with many individuals, businesses, organizations, and public entities to achieve these goals. Our foundation solicits and accepts contributions, donations, financial and otherwise, from individuals, businesses, organizations, and corporations. Those donors can deduct their contributions from their federal and state taxes in accordance with the IRS code 501c3. Foundation is governed by a board of directors. Our current board includes myself, Tom Pyatt, as president, vice president Jane Lowe, secretary Andy McCown, treasurer Al Yannick, and directors Pat Kunicki, Ed Morgan, and Bill Long. Many of those names are probably familiar to many of you in the community. They've been dedicating their efforts here in the village to the community. Our board is responsible solely for the administration of assets, for the conversion of assets from one type to another. An example of that would be a real estate donation that we would convert to cash for investments or grants. The board's responsible for the control and use of the assets. However, we do entertain suggestions when a donation is made. We have community leaders support. I'm proud to say we have the ex officio members of our board are Mayor Frank Anderson, POA General Manager Tommy Bailey representing the POA, and Cooper Communities represented by their CEO John Cooper III. Our contributions come from several sources, and we encourage and solicit those sources from individuals, from organizations and businesses, from testimonial bequests in estates, estate planning. If you're thinking about doing things for the future of Bella Vista and you want to include us in your plans, we're happy to work with you on that. And also grants from other nonprofits, and I'll give you an example of that when we talk about our current major project that we're undertaking on trails. In terms of grants, we've written several grants already in our short life. We provide a form and assistance to apply for funding. We have an approval process. Hopefully that takes about 30 to 60 days because we do have to gather quite a bit of information. One of our jobs is to be accountable to the IRS in terms of our tax status, and we're very careful to protect that so that we protect the life of the foundation. Projects that we've done and completed already. Back in 2012, most of the folks who lived here then will remember the American Junior Golf Association, the AJGA tournament that was held at the Highlands Golf Course, and we took contributions from the city and the POA and other private contributions to support that. We supported the 2012 and 13 rollout of the Bella Vista Golf Ambassadors startup. That organization has now evolved to a Bella Vista Ambassadors, which includes not only golf but all of our other amenities to get people to move to our community. The Heydays event in 2013 was that first community event in the fall. Roaring success with about 10,000 people attending, and we helped gather prizes and funding and so forth where people wanted, our organizations wanted to make charitable contributions to that event. So we've partnered with the city and the POA, any other local organizations on these projects. We have some projects currently in process. The Master Trails and Greenways Plan for Bella Vista Community, and Jeff and I are going to talk a little more about that after I show you this slideshow. We're funded for this activity by a grant from the Walton Family Foundation, and we are also in a partnership with the city and the POA on this project. Ultimately, they'll be the owners of this project after we finish it in March of 2015, and it will be completed then in March of 2015. I'll tell you more about that a little later. The Heydays event will occur again this fall in September, and we will be accepting donations and making a grant to that event to help them with that project. We do have community projects that we've talked about, some larger scope projects that we've talked about for the future. So these are on our drawing board. They are not actually in action and under project right now, but we recognize the need for an east side dog park and a walking trail. We're tying that to some of our work that we're doing with the project we're currently undertaking with the Trails project, because every dog park needs a trail somewhere associated with it. So we're working in that direction. The community farmers market, which almost every city in the state has in their community, we recognize that need. The city is working with that and thinking about that, so the foundation might play a part as they acquire some footprint in terms of land or property to put that farmers market on. And also a great big one that we all feel we need, I think, in the Bella Vista community is a community recreation and wellness center. Something that's much larger in scope than we have at Reardon Hall, something that would be similar to our neighboring communities of Rogers and Bentonville and others that have had those type of centers that will include an aquatic center and so forth. That's several $1 million of money that has to be funded and planned, and we're willing to work with that, but have not started that as a project yet. All of these projects that I mentioned here would again be partnering with the city, with the POA, with Cooper Communities, and any other local organizations that are applicable. Just some frequently asked questions that we have when we talk about the foundation. Are small contributions useful and accepted? Absolutely yes. The foundation has the advantage of being able to aggregate those smaller contributions and from all sources in order to support a project or several projects. And how does our foundation relate to the city and the POA? We are a separate entity. We're independent. We do partner with the city and the POA on projects of mutual community interest because they're very important in our community and we like to leverage their resources. To conclude here, the contacts for our foundation, we welcome your comments and questions and we will answer those. One of our board members will respond to any contact. You see in front of you the info@bellavistafoundation.com. That's our email address or our address of P.O. Box, 5261 in Bella Vista, zip code 72714. Our foundation website is alive and well, and we enjoy having people come and visit that. It's very easy to remember at just bellavistafoundation.com. We have some very pretty flowing pictures of our beautiful community. We have current information about our foundation project, some of which I've already given you. And we also have a link to our new project, the Bella Vista Trails and Greenway project website. So please visit that website and enjoy it and send us any comments or inquiries that you might have from that. So in conclusion, our Bella Vista Foundation, Jeff says thank you for allowing us to serve the community, and we're looking forward to doing that year after year.
Well, Tom, there's a lot of information there that you've passed on, and it's useful, good information. If I can summarize in my words, one of the purposes, the prime purpose of the foundation is to enhance the lifestyle and amenities and events in Bella Vista. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. That's what we're organized for. Any of our projects will be required to have a identification with the community. We are not organized to give to individuals. We can give to organizations that are serving the communities. We could give to the POA if they're serving the community, not as a private membership amenity, but for general use by the public. So any of those projects we're absolutely interested in.
Well, that was another thing that jumped out at me when you were going through your presentation, was the fact that you do partner with other organizations, public and private, to leverage assets and get a greater benefit. So,
and that's true. One thing that we started without a huge endowment, like some foundations may start with somebody writing a great big check and
sure.
You have a lot of money in the bank and you start giving it away. We didn't start that way. As we've partnered with like the golf tournament and the GM or the golf ambassadors, we raised money either from donations and so forth for each of those projects. And we're still in that mode today. So we would certainly welcome somebody helping us get more financially on the ground to do that. But that's why we partner with these folks.
Okay. Well, you mentioned partnering with the Walton Foundation. Did I get that correct?
Yeah. That's not a partnering as much. It is because we made an application to the Walton Family Foundation for a grant for the Trails project.
Okay.
And there was several people, including the POA and others, that were already working on trail plans here in the village. And our job now with this grant from Walton Family Foundation is to put all those plans together, build on those, get public input, spend this next year in putting a map together that has all of the potential trail locations, trails and greenways. That includes green space and other places that we might have that people can recreate and enjoy themselves, walking, biking, running, whatever they might want to do.
That's why I wanted to ask you about that. And so much here, I don't know where to begin exactly. But when we're talking trails, we're talking biking trails, hiking trails primarily, some paved, some natural, I guess.
You must have read our brochure, but that's exactly what we're doing. The trails will be commonly developed so that they would handle, you don't have a separate trail for walking or a separate trail for biking, but those trails would be wide enough, 9 feet to 12 feet, for example.
Oh.
Some of them would be hard trails, could be cement. Some of them or asphalt. Some of them will be hardened, soft trails, we call it, but they're durable so that they last with erosion and so forth. And all of that will be in the design, and there'll be standards for that the consultant provides for us. So when any entity in the village wants to provide a trail and has funding for that trail, here's plans and here's standards that they can use, which they can go right to work. And in fact, if I may, that leads us to the ability, if we have this plan, to go outside for federal funds, for state funds, for other public funds, such as the foundations around that are into the quality of life and so forth, and are willing to provide funds for those. So we would expect not to spend a lot of the residents' dollars to do these trails, but over time we will find funds to provide a lot of miles of trails within the village.
Now there are currently existing a few trails. There's one at Tanyard Creek, and there's one around Lake Bella Vista, I know, and there's a short one, I think, below Loch Lomond Dam?
Yes, there are. And those are all trails that have been put together between Cooper Communities dedicating land, the POA putting them in, the city's involved in some planning and trails that aren't in the ground yet, but that'll all get rolled up into the plan that we're putting together. And but we found that based on what the community wants and the younger generation that's coming to our community, including the older generation that wants to stay in shape, there's a real demand. There's been a couple of surveys over the last couple of years that have just really made that very high on the list of what people want. and people don't live close to those. If you
Yeah.
drive the village streets, you will see people walking and running, and sometimes dangerously so,
Yes.
to the point that these trails are really neat. I have not, they're really needed. I have not talked to anybody that didn't think we needed more trails in Bella Vista. So that's our mission.
And the foundation has retained a firm to study where some trails can go and that sort of thing?
Yeah, and it's a very professional, nationally known firm. When I checked out their credentials and so forth, I talked to North Carolina and South Carolina and all of our neighboring cities, and I use the term walk on water. Alta Design and Planning are very well reputed for that. Very professional. We have a local representative whose name is Dennis Blind that lives right here in our community and is very involved with the communities, has even done some other projects. So we feel really good about being well staffed to get this job done.
Well, and a lot of these trails, I assume, will connect with each other or connect with existing trails then?
That's part of the plan. And if you looked at the map that we've already generated, we had this at one public meeting, it shows trails that are connected. They're connected on paper at this point and in pen, but to put that in the ground takes some engineering and some things that we still have to put together to make sure. But the connection, and part of the connectivity, is the Razorback Greenway that has already been almost completely built. It's 37 miles of trails between Bentonville and actually Lake Bella Vista and Fayetteville. And that trail will be a trailhead for starting our trails in Bella Vista.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you about that. Now, you mentioned March 15th. That's when the plans will be kind of formulated and presented?
That's our contractual due date with our consultant that we've hired to do that. And they say that that's not a problem in getting it done by then. They're going to have a lot of input. They've already had people here on the ground in Bella Vista to work on that. They've had one public meeting with some feedback and orientation for the residents, and all the public here is going to be welcome. We'll have at least one more meeting, and then we'll have a conclusion meeting to show the plan to the public. And then we turn it over to the POA and the city and say, go get some money and build some trails.
Build some trails.
In the meantime, we have what we call a project steering committee that has representatives from the POA and from the city and from our foundation and from Trailblazers and the other and the biking community. All those folks that have been involved with the Razorback Trail are involved on our steering committee. So we have a lot of help to get this done.
Well, that's good to know. And this is not just a single trail project. From talking with you earlier, it's my understanding this can go on for many years as trails continue to be added to the system.
When I asked our consultant Dennis about that, he said, well, this is really a 20-year window.
Is that right?
And there's a reason for that. The demand and the change in demographics and things may change this plan some, but it's dynamic in terms of changing it. But the funding and the time that it takes to build all those trails, you're talking about a lot of time that goes by. Hopefully we get some in the first few years that are doing some of the things we want to do for recreation and getting people off the street and letting them have fun on the trails. So that'll be a goal short term.
That's an exciting project. It's one that involves most of the people in the community, and it's ambitious, no question. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you. I hope we get the plan together so that then the whole community can buy into it and like it. I don't know what there's not to like about
Yeah,
this.
I know.
And it's another thing that adds value to our community with all our properties
Absolutely.
and everything. And we're out there marketing our community to the rest of the world. We don't want everybody to come here, but we want a significant population.
Well,
and we have lots of green space to put them in. So
there you go.
these trails will help.
When you were doing your slide program earlier, you mentioned that you are a 501c3 organization, and so for tax purposes, any contributions are tax deductible. Could you kind of go over that again, how people can contribute to the foundation?
Sure. And as I mentioned, what we've done so far is we haven't gone out and broadly solicited the public for contributions. We've taken contributions when we had one of our projects going. That's still kind of in the mode we're in now, but we are going to welcome anybody that wants to come in and talk to us about a contribution. They may have a project in mind. I would only have to remind them that it has to be one that serves the purpose of the foundation in order for us to accept those. But we will accept contributions, as I said earlier, from individuals, from organizations, from testamentary estate planning and things like that that people are willing to enter into, and we will get involved with them and do whatever we can do to facilitate that. And as I mentioned before, the grants like we have from Walton Family Foundation, and certainly going forward, for example, with the trails, where you may have opportunity for matching grants that we raise some money from federal grants or some other source, and then they can match. There's some really big dollars out there that are potential for us there. But we welcome the community input. We haven't been, maybe we're one of the better kept secrets in Bella Vista, because we haven't gotten out there and just solicited money. We've been available for people who wanted to use us, and I see that growing to be a bigger and better opportunity for the village.
Well, hopefully, after this program gets aired, our viewers will have a much better sense of what the foundation is and how to support it if they care to. I mean, that's good.
We welcome that. Thanks, Jeff.
I want to talk a little bit about somebody has an idea out there for a project or a grant or an activity or an event or something. How do they apply for that?
Well, the first thing they do is come and talk to us. They shouldn't spend a lot of time writing this down on paper until they come and talk to us, because the first thing we do is examine whether this is a concept or a project that would fit with our purpose, back to the community, as I described before.
Sure.
And if it does, we sit down with them. We have some forms and some needs that we have to gather information, and we'll sit down with them and help them provide all that to us. And then we have a period of time of 30, 60, 90 days to decide if that's something a project that we can take care of and do it with due diligence.
Sure.
And then that's really what we need from them. If we award that grant, then ultimately they have some reporting requirements and some things they need to do for us while they're in the project. It's not just free money. They have to be accountable for what they spend it for, and then we have a final report that completes our records. We have to be very careful to protect ourselves with the IRS requirements that we have for the foundation.
Certainly understandable. Is there a minimum size grant or a maximum size grant that can be applied for?
No. There might be some numbers that I would say don't waste our time on, but I won't quote a number like that. We haven't had any minor. I mean, we've had with a few $1,000s here and a few $1,000s there on these projects that have been significant enough for us to really get involved with, and it was worth our time to do that. We have 7 directors. We spread ourselves fairly thin, but we partner with an organization that has a concept or a project, and they do obviously a lot of the work, and we just support them and work with them.
On the projects that you've done in the past, like Heydays jumps to my mind, for example, Tom, will you be helping them again this year?
Yes, absolutely. We will be taking donations. Last year we did prizes from companies that were providing prizes for them and wanted a charitable donation for that, and we did that. We did some cash donations, and yes, we will be helping them in that manner. Okay. We don't have the labor force to get out there and help them put it on the ground, but they do that very, very nicely, and we just help them with some of the gathering of funds.
Do you hopefully intend at some point in the future that Heydays would be able to carry itself then? Or is this something you anticipate doing?
We would anticipate doing this with them every year that they want us to.
Oh, okay.
Because as a 501c3, we can take the charitable donations and turn that into funding for them, and that's a win-win for them and us and whoever the donor is. So that's the reason we're involved with that kind of a project.
Well, last year was the first year for Heydays, was it not?
Yes, it was. And it was
a
highly
great
successful, and they're really looking forward to it and working very hard on it again this year.
Well, that's great. Future projects, let's talk. You mentioned that during your presentation, but you talked about a farmer's market potentially and a recreation, I'm going to call it a welfare center, not a welfare center, what am I?
A wellness center.
Wellness, there you go,
Yes.
Thank you. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yes, as I said, those are plans as we do our future planning. Those are projects that we see as a significant need for the community. And if we can play a part in that, fine. If you take the farmer's market, for example, you need a nice plot of land somewhere that's convenient to the public, probably on Highway 71 or somewhere that people are going to drive by and use. And you need an organization that's going to put that in place, and you need some funding to do that, and you need some land to do that. And where we would probably play a part in that would be if there's somebody around that would be contributing land or providing land for that kind of an activity, then the foundation could let them make that a charitable deduction. We could be involved in some fundraising for that. That's probably a project that the city will ultimately take on, because in Arkansas most cities have the farmers market. So that's the farmers market. That's why it's on our drawing board, though. The wellness center is something that has come up in surveys even as much as trails have, that we really wanted a wellness center in the village. And that included aquatics and something that's similar to what you see in some of the communities around. That's a multi-million-dollar activity that takes some planning, some partnerships, and a lot of doing. So that's something that we're willing to be involved with, to raise funds, to help plan it, to move land around if we need to, or help with that. Anything we can do to encourage that. That's about as far as we've gone with that, other than to have that on our planning calendar to keep bringing it up and looking for people who would, or organizations that would want to partner with that. That could be a combination of the POA and the city and
I'm sure
and maybe there's somebody else out there we don't even know about that would be a good partner in that. The YMCA, for example.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well,
that's why that's on our future.
It's great that
desires.
you're forward-looking. You know, you're proactive in this whole process. Can I assume that the assets of the foundation are growing as years go by here?
We're pretty stable right now, because what we've done, as I mentioned, we've dispensed those funds that we've acquired for these projects. So when we've been doing a project, we've taken funds in and we've taken them all out there. So we're stable now in terms of operating costs and so forth. And we've had some help from both the city and the POA and Cooper Communities, our partners in having operating costs. So we do not have to tax a project to take money to run. But we do not have an endowment at this point in time. We do not have something that's a deep pocket that says here's
you've got
grant
areas
money.
you can grow.
We will work on that in the future.
But one of the distinctions about the Bella Vista Foundation is you're a little different than a community foundation. We don't have a whole lot of time here, but if you could just briefly explain some of the differences, that would be.
I'll give you the biggest difference between a community foundation, which we are not. A community foundation is usually formed in the community for some of the same purposes we have with our foundation, but they're formed to have their membership as anybody in the community that wants to give money or pay dues to that community foundation will be a member, and a voting member. Not exactly like the POA, because that's a private it's a private nonprofit, but something similar to that. In our case, we're a foundation that's controlled by, we can have a total of 9 directors. We currently have 7. We make all the decisions. We handle all the funds and the grants and all of that within our board, and our board of directors are the total members. So that's the difference between a community.
You're self-administered, where others, community foundations.
It would in a community foundation, it would require a decision would require a vote of the membership, and we are the members on the board in this case.
Well, Tom, we're just about out of time. Is there anything that you'd like to mention that we may have missed or went over too quickly?
Only to echo that it's number one, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Jeff. But it's also important for us to get the word out to the community that we are in existence in the foundation. And again, we're young and we're getting started, but we do hope to build a funding capability that we don't have today that will be able to help the community. And the people that we have as directors and running this are all people who are very faithful to this community and have nothing but the best interest at heart for our community. So to that end, that's the message, the extra message I would like to get out today with that opportunity.
And people can write in or call you. The address again, your P.O. box?
Yeah, the address, the POA box is 59, pardon me, I have to look. Let's not forget our website, which is bellavistafoundation.com.
Okay.
And that's an easy one to remember.
Yes.
And that has all the mailing address and everything on it.
Okay.
But our mailing address also is Post Office Box 5261 here in Town Center, zip code 714.
Okay.
So,
Well, and you will have more public meetings in the future?
on the Trails Project,
Trails
absolutely.
Project,
We have
yes.
one more that'll be in the fall, and then we'll have maybe even one more after that. And then,
Okay.
by the way, on their website, either linkage with the POA or the city or of our website or directly to theirs, they have a survey. I think they've had 90 surveys so far turned in, and they
Okay.
welcome those surveys from the people. That gives them some input for the Trails Project. And then they will have, they're having meetings with the city and the POA, updates and so forth. So there'll be a lot of communication
Okay.
coming in the fall and spring on
Well,
the Trails Project.
folks should be aware of that and look for that information in the newspapers. But I want to thank you, Tom, for coming over today. I appreciate it, and telling us all about the Bella Vista Foundation. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for sharing a part of your day with us. I'm your host, Jeff Warchow, and this is Northwest Arkansas Discovery.